Hey everyone, Matt from Soundrolling.com. Glad you made it to Module 1. So this is obviously the Sound Device 664, and we're going to be going through just basically what is on it. We're going to be starting, all mixers, I should say, start from in, from the left, and out from the right, or at least 90% of them. So I'll be taking you through the features, and don't worry if you don't know what one is. We will be obviously explaining every single one of them. It's just to highlight where they are on the mixer so you can get familiar with where all the buttons and controls are. So we'll start with all the inputs because that's where the kind of first thing is going to be. So we have our full XLRs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And then we have another 6 which act as both direct outs or inputs as well. Incidentally, these connectors are TA3 connectors, and these are full XLRs. You can tell that male XLRs go into them because the males have the prongs. Whereas here, because these have the prongs, you need female TA3 connectors to actually plug in. Usually you'll buy TA3 to XLR, and then you can have another bank of 6. There's a slate mic. Now, the slate mic function we'll show later, and that's also TA3. I've actually screwed mine up a little bit on the inside, it seems. I hardly use mine, to be honest. There's also an inbuilt one, excuse me, but this allows you to plug in an external mic if you feel that it's not good enough or your mixer's a bit further away from you. Then we have 2 headphone inputs, one as a full quarter jack, so you'll need one of those adapters to get to a 3.5 millimeter, or you have a 3.5 millimeter here. Unfortunately, mine is broken because in the bag it's not very secure, the nut that kind of holds the connection. So I do need to get that fixed, and that is fixable if that ever happens to you. But now I just use this one all the time. Much more sturdy, especially with the adapter in as well. It just holds it a lot better. Okay, so now let's move on to the front of the device. And so let's look at the fader panels here, because they're all obviously for your full XLR inputs. So any of these will be mimicked here. So at the bottom, we start at the left, yeah? And at the top, we're going all the way to the right. These colored panels, buttons will, or stickers, I should say, will come and you can stick them in any order. It doesn't really matter at all. But you can also stick them on radio mics, for instance, if you permanently have a setup for yours. So all of these are exactly the same, from the black button, and then gray, and then this flick switch, yeah? So now these are all mimicked. So I'll just explain channel 1. Incidentally, you see where that little mic is? That's the inbuilt mic for the slate mic, which is over here, which we'll talk about in a second. So if you ever need to talk into your internal slate mic, here it is. So we would have the main master fader. Now you can see that it's set at 0 when it's kind of 12 o'clock, and we can add 15 dB to the signal, or we can go to minus 38. Yeah, and that'll take it, and then eventually to off, okay? We'll be talking later about ISOs and mix tracks and stuff, but just remember that you're going to have, when you're listening, and you're listening through your mix, when you're setting your gain, which is this one, you're going to be wanting to have your fader at 0, and then you can calibrate accordingly from there. Next, we have the high-pass filter, and this means that when this is enabled, you'll hear a click, on or off, and at the minimum it will cut off anything below 80 hertz, and a maximum it'll cut off everything below 240. This is obviously including 240 as well. So this is I would never recommend going all the way to 240 because you can do it in post-production, but if you're feeling that it is very, very bassy and you want to take some out before it gets to post, you are more than entitled to, I would say. So you can use that as well. Left and right, this is again a mix. Your mix track comes as a stereo. So we have panning left and panning right. This is left over from kind of the film days when you could only go to stereo. And so effectively you would have a 2-track recorder, because you could pan one all the way to the left and pan one all the way to the right. And therefore it would obviously give you 2 channels, even though it was just a stereo track. Next we have this little toggle button. It goes to the left and the right. And so if we go to the left, it will actually enable, if you just tap it and hold it, it will fully enable pre-fade listen, which means no matter how many of these you're playing at once on your mix track, you're going to be just listening to numero uno here, or if you did it on number 2 or number 3. Incidentally, you can combine these, so I could put this all the way on for this and then all the way on for number 2, and I would be hearing both of them pre-fade, as in before I do anything. So it doesn't matter what I do to this, because this is the fader. So we're talking pre-fade, which is before the fader. So this is after we've added gain, so in between these two. And this is just so when you're mixing everything together, maybe you hear a bump or a knock, or one of the radio mics starts to hiss, and you can quickly isolate which kind of one is causing the problem, and then obviously go and fix it. So that's really useful to have. And on the right side, when you push it in, it will take you to a menu, and it'll take you to the menu of the microphones and the input settings. So we're going to be covering that in another video as well. But just for getting used to obviously where everything is and buttons and things, we have obviously the main screen, and let's start at the top right. So we have power, and we have internal, and then the middle is off, and then external. Now I have nothing plugged into external, so nothing comes on, but I have batteries on the internal, and you can see the device loading up here. I'll just quickly, now we've turned on the device, I'll quickly nip back, and that means that pre-fade listen is on. So you can either press it and it will lock, or you can just hold for a bit, and then when you let go it goes back to normal. So this is the main screen you get. We'll cover the main screen in a separate video because there are a lot of functions within, and I don't want these videos to end up being like 45-minute crazy sessions. But just to take you through the controls. So we've turned on internal and external. This green light is just for your battery. You'll also have a battery symbol here, and there's better ways to see the battery, but that just means that that's on. TC just means that it's still counting when it's off. So the TC is still valid. It basically will hold its internal time code until a certain point that the device has been off, and then it won't be jammed effectively anymore. Next we have the menu button, and so if I just turn on the device again, then if we press menu, we get into the menu options. There's a few things here like file, which is the headphone button and the menu button, but I'll cover shortcuts again in a subsequent video, and there'll be a sheet to download in this so you can try them out straight away. We next have our returns. So if we go back, because when I talk about the outputs and we have returns and we're connecting to cameras, we can choose to listen to those cameras. So either return A, return B, or C. So there's 3 different ways we can actually monitor from different cameras, which is going to be incredibly useful in E and G. In terms of this main display, just to quickly cover it, we have down here time code. So this number will change. Usually mine's time of day. It's not at the moment because it's not actually 1:15 in the morning. We have 48 kilohertz for the sample rate. We have how long we've been recording. Obviously nothing's being recorded at the moment. We have A, B, and C as these quick references to your return feeds. And we have headphone volume or preset selection. So here we can either turn up and down our headphone volume, or we can select what we want to hear. And I'll get into presets later, which is very, very handy if you're mixing with several sources. Next, we have tone. So if we go to the right, we can generate tone, which is 1 kilohertz. And if you hold it, a green light will appear, and that means that it's locked on. A shortcut, if you want to tell what the difference is between left and right, is you press this select button and hold it down while then putting tone all the way over. And you can see that the left pulses. And so when you have your cables plugged into the camera, you can see which one is going to be the left one. So you can match things up. Otherwise, when you listen to your return, then obviously if things are the wrong way round, you're going to get incredibly confused. And if you're just mixing by ear, you're going to end up messing up your mix. Slate mic. Now, this is what I said earlier. The microphone is over here. And again, just like the tone, if you just do press and hold, it'll let go. But if you just tap, then it'll stay on. And this will only record to if you're recording the mix track. So this means that it'll also send to cameras and things like that as well. So you can quickly label takes and slates if you want, and then do a quick tone for syncing purposes. If you're linked directly to a camera, it kind of makes sense. Select button, I mean, this is going to take you through all the different options for the microphones. Now you can see some aren't highlighted here, and this is because the gain knob is completely off. So you see when I put gain on, it activates a channel, and when it's off, it takes away the channel. We also have meters. We'll get into how to set up different meter displays, but this can be handy if you have, for instance, here we only go up to 6, but we can actually have up to 12. And here you see there's up to 8 here. But there's various different menus, and we'll be, of course, covering that later on. Now for the main kind of button that you're always going to use, the record button. It's a toggle switch as well as a button. So if you press the button, it'll stop, but it'll also tell you, if you hold it down, the next take that you're going to do, scene and take. And it's brackets next to let you know that. Then if we flick up, but I haven't inserted an SD card, then we can record. If we press back, then we can rewind, fast forward, and play. So obviously once you're playing, then you can fast forward or rewind. So we'll be using that function quite a bit in this tutorial as well. So that is a general overview. Again, we'll be getting into much deeper detail with the actual menu itself and the buttons around it. Okay, so now let's just turn off the mixer for now. And now we will get into the returns. So, firstly, we have a B class USB, and this is like a printer cable, and that'll should have come with your pack if you've just got your 664. If you have it secondhand, then maybe not. I don't know. But this will plug into a keyboard, and I'll show you how handy and useful a keyboard can be, especially when you're entering metadata. Next, we have this little grip here. And here we're able to enter the SD card, and here is the CF card. So we can record dual format here, which is very, very handy if you're handing over rushes. And then they will just stay secure behind this magnetic door here. Then we have the time code, and all the time code runs out of a 5-pin LEMO connection. And then we have the 10-pin 10-pin loom connections, not Hiroshi. Hiroshi is for power, which is over here. So if you're looking for a loom, which is basically a big, thick cable to plug to a camera, then we can plug that into there. So we have both a left and a right here for the left and right out. So it'll send both out if they're connected. Again, we will get completely into, and I will be able to show you all the cables that we'll be using for this and all the very different customizations of everything. So next we have tape out, and this is essentially a return. Well, it doubles up as a return. Oh no, A doubles up as a return as well in this cable. Tape out is just essentially a source, a mix source that you can send. Auxiliary 1 and auxiliary 2 are essentially like two mix tracks, although being auxiliary they're kind of separate, and you can customize what gets sent where with those. Left and L and R balanced out is your mix track again, and you're able to send this. These are all TA3 connectors, you'll notice. And you'll be able to send this out to cameras as well, and you can get separate different looms as well for the XLRs, and then you'll be plugging into the tape out source or the return source to send or hear what is being sent to different cameras. So I hope that isn't too overwhelming, but just know that at the moment you can plug into 4 separate cameras. You can plug in 1 mix here, number 2 mix here, number 3 mix here, number 4 mix here, and even 5. You could plug into 5 cameras if it really needed it. You can plug into 5. There's also this link IO, so you can link to another 664 and actually make it a master or a slave. And so when you press record on one, it'll press record on the other, and they'll match up with timecode and things. Next down here we have a power port, and I'll be going into power as well, but this is for external power, whether it be on a mains line or an NP1 style battery, which is one of the kind of thick orange ones. Then we have a place where your batteries are going to go, and this is just a turnkey thing, and then you're going to have 5 batteries. And it tells you which way to put them in, but always put them in positive end first. I can give you that kind of cheat. And it's pretty tough with that spring to turn it back on. It should tell you on the, not the bottom, on the back. Yeah, probably on the back somewhere. No, where does it tell you? Oh, I thought it had a diagram for you, but obviously not. So we'll get onto the back, I guess, because that covers the side. And so we have word clock, and this is used for kind of keeping frames, and it's more to do with kind of video. But these are BNC connections, and you can have in and out. And then we have our returns, so we have our comms returns. So these are TA3 as well, and we'll be getting all into the different ways that you can send and receive signal to your boom operator. So that literally covers the crash course introduction of where everything is on the 664 and what we're going to be using throughout this whole course. So I've been Matt Price, and until the next video, see you then.